Captain Marcus Thompson had always been the joker of the naval base. His friends knew him for his pranks and his ability to make even the most serious sailors laugh during their long months at sea. At 35 years old, Marcus had earned his captain's rank through hard work and dedication. But he never let the responsibility take away his sense of humor. The USS Thunderbolt was docked at Pearl Harbor for a routine maintenance check. It was a beautiful Tuesday morning in April, and the crew was enjoying some well-deserved rest after 6 months of deployment in the Pacific. Marcus walked through the corridors of his ship, greeting his men with his usual cheerful smile. The smell of fresh coffee and bacon drifted from the galley, mixing with the salty sea air that always filled the ship. "Morning, Captain," called out Petty Officer Johnson, who was mopping the deck near the mess hall. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" "Indeed it is, Johnson. Perfect day for some fun," Marcus replied with a mischievous glint in his eyes. Marcus had been planning something special for weeks. His best friend from the Naval Academy, Captain Robert Hayes, was stationed on a destroyer docked just 2 piers away. They had been pulling pranks on each other since their academy days, and Marcus felt it was time for payback. Robert had gotten him good last month by replacing all his coffee with decaf, causing Marcus to fall asleep during a briefing with the base commander. As Marcus entered his quarters, he pulled out a small notebook where he kept track of all his prank ideas. Today's plan was simple but effective. He would visit Robert's ship under the pretense of discussing training exercises, but he would bring along a special surprise. Marcus had purchased a can of cola that looked exactly like coffee when poured into a mug. His plan was to offer Robert what appeared to be premium coffee, but was actually fizzy cola. The morning sun climbed higher as Marcus prepared for his visit. He showered, put on his crisp uniform, and made sure every detail was perfect. His crew members noticed their captain seemed particularly happy today, humming old Navy songs as he walked around the ship. They had learned to recognize this mood. It usually meant someone was about to become the target of one of Captain Thompson's famous pranks. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, Marcus's executive officer, approached him near the ship's bridge. "Captain, you seem to be in an especially good mood today. Should we be worried about what you're planning?" Marcus chuckled and adjusted his cap. "Just planning to catch up with an old friend, Martinez. Nothing for you to worry about. Keep the ship running smoothly while I'm gone." At exactly 10 o'clock, Marcus gathered his supplies. He had a thermos filled with the cola, 2 coffee mugs that looked official and serious, and a folder containing some real training documents to make his visit seem legitimate. He also brought along some genuine pastries from the base bakery, knowing that Robert had always had a sweet tooth. The walk between the ships took about 10 minutes. Marcus enjoyed the bustling activity of the naval base. Sailors were working on various ships, loading supplies, conducting maintenance checks, and preparing for upcoming deployments. The sound of machinery, shouting orders, and seagulls created the familiar symphony of naval life that Marcus loved. As he approached Robert's ship, the USS Lightning Strike, Marcus could see his friend on the deck talking to some of his crew members. Robert looked exactly the same as always, tall, serious, with graying hair at his temples that made him look distinguished. Marcus remembered how Robert had always been the more serious student at the academy, while Marcus had been the class clown. "Permission to come aboard," Marcus called out as he reached the gangway. Robert turned and broke into a wide smile. "Marcus, what brings you to my ship? Don't tell me you're here to inspect our operations." "Nothing so serious, old friend. I thought we could discuss those joint training exercises over some coffee. I brought some of that premium blend you mentioned, loving so much." Robert's eyes lit up. He had been talking about wanting to try a new Colombian coffee blend that Marcus had mentioned during their last phone conversation. "You actually brought some? That's fantastic. Come on up to my quarters. We can talk there without interruptions." As they walked through Robert's ship, Marcus noticed how well-maintained everything was. Robert had always been meticulous about organization and cleanliness. Even during their academy days, the crew members they passed were busy with their duties, and Marcus could tell that Robert ran a tight ship. Robert's quarters were larger than Marcus's, reflecting his slightly higher seniority. The room was decorated with naval memorabilia, family photos, and several books about military strategy. A large window provided a view of the harbor, where other naval vessels were anchored in perfect formation. "So, what's this about training exercises?" Robert asked as he cleared some papers from his desk. "Are we finally going to do those coordinated maneuvers we talked about last year?" Marcus set down his thermos and unpacked the mugs. "Actually, I think our crews could benefit from some joint operations. But first, let me pour you that coffee I promised. You're going to love this blend." As Marcus unscrewed the thermos cap, he could barely contain his excitement. The cola inside looked exactly like dark coffee, and it even had a slight foam on top that resembled coffee crema. He had tested this at home several times to make sure it would work perfectly. "You know, Marcus, I've been looking forward to this all week. Ever since you mentioned that Colombian blend, I've been dreaming about trying it. My usual coffee just hasn't been satisfying me lately." Marcus poured the cola into both mugs, making sure to give Robert the fuller one. The liquid looked perfect. Dark, rich, and completely indistinguishable from high-quality coffee. He even added a small amount of sugar to his own mug to make the charade more convincing. "Here you go, Robert. The finest Colombian coffee money can buy. I guarantee you've never tasted anything like it." Robert picked up his mug and inhaled deeply. "It smells interesting. Different from what I expected, but in a good way. Very unique aroma." "Ope." Marcus lifted his own mug and proposed a toast. "To old friendships and new adventures." "Cheers to that," Robert replied, raising his mug. They both took their first sips simultaneously. Marcus pretended to drink while watching Robert's face carefully. He expected to see surprise, confusion, maybe even laughter, when Robert realized what had happened. But Robert's reaction was completely different from what Marcus had anticipated. Instead of the confused smile Marcus expected, Robert's face went through a series of expressions. Surprise, then concern, then something that looked almost like panic. "Marcus," Robert said slowly, setting down his mug with shaking hands. "Do you realize what you just did?" "I'm way. Come on, Robert. It's just a harmless prank. It's cola, not coffee. I thought you'd get a laugh out of it, just like the old days." Robert stood up quickly, his face pale. "Marcus, you don't understand. I'm not Captain Hayes anymore. I was promoted last month. I'm Admiral Hayes now, and more importantly, this isn't my ship." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean this isn't your ship? I saw you on deck giving orders. I'm conducting an inspection tour of all ships in the fleet. This ship belongs to Admiral Richardson." He stepped away for a moment to take an important call from Washington. He asked me to wait in his quarters, and said he'd be right back. The color drained from Marcus's face as the full implications hit him. "You mean I just served cola to the most senior admiral in the Pacific Fleet?" "Yes. And he'll be back any minute." Marcus looked around the room with new eyes. Now he noticed the extra stars on various insignia, the more formal decorations, and the photographs showing Robert shaking hands with the Secretary of the Navy. This wasn't his friend's casual quarters. This was the private office of one of the most powerful men in the U.S. Navy. "Robert, I mean Admiral Hayes, what do we do?" Before Robert could answer, they heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Heavy, measured steps that suggested someone of importance approaching. Robert's face went even paler. "That's him. Admiral Richardson is coming back." "Marcus, there's no time to explain this away. You just served cola to a 4-star admiral who was expecting premium coffee." The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Marcus could hear voices. Admiral Richardson was talking to someone, probably a subordinate, about fleet readiness reports. In a few seconds, the door would open, and Marcus would have to face the consequences of his joke gone horribly wrong. Marcus looked at the mug sitting on the Admiral's desk, still half full of cola. There was no hiding what had happened. The evidence was right there, and Admiral Richardson would taste it the moment he took a sip. Marcus had heard stories about the Admiral's legendary temper when things didn't go according to plan. Robert, in all our years of friendship, has there ever been a prank that backfired this badly? Never. Marcus, this could end your career. Admiral Richardson doesn't have a reputation for tolerating nonsense, especially from junior officers. The door handle turned slowly. Marcus straightened his uniform and tried to prepare himself for what was about to happen. He had faced enemy fire, survived storms at sea, and commanded men in dangerous situations, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Admiral Richardson stepped into the room. Admiral Richardson entered his quarters with the confident stride of a man accustomed to command. At 58 years old, he was an imposing figure, tall, broad-shouldered, with steel-gray hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to take in every detail at once. His uniform was immaculate, with 4 stars gleaming on his shoulders and ribbons covering his chest, each representing years of distinguished service. "Admiral Hayes," Richardson said, nodding to Robert before turning his attention to Marcus. "And you must be Captain Thompson. I've heard good things about your service record." Marcus snapped to attention, his heart pounding so hard he was sure everyone in the room could hear it. "Admiral Richardson, sir. Thank you for allowing me aboard your ship." "At ease, Captain." "Admiral Hayes tells me you wanted to discuss some training exercises. I appreciate initiative from my captains." Richardson moved toward his desk, where the 2 mugs sat waiting. "I hope you gentlemen haven't been waiting long. That call from Washington took longer than expected." Robert shot Marcus a desperate look. There was still time to confess, to explain the situation before Admiral Richardson picked up the mug. But Marcus found himself frozen, unable to speak. The words seemed stuck in his throat. "Actually, Admiral," Robert began, clearly trying to buy them some time. "Perhaps we should reschedule this meeting. Captain Thompson and I were just discussing preliminary ideas." "Nonsense," Richardson replied, settling into his chair behind the desk. "I have a few minutes now, and I'm always interested in hearing fresh ideas from my captains. Besides, I could use a good cup of coffee after that conversation with the Pentagon." He reached for the mug that Marcus had filled with cola. Marcus watched in horror as the Admiral lifted it toward his lips. Time seemed to slow down. Marcus could see the dark liquid moving slightly in the cup, could hear the Admiral talking about fleet readiness, could feel sweat forming on his forehead despite the air conditioning. "Admiral, wait," Marcus finally managed to say, but it was too late. Admiral Richardson took a large gulp of what he expected to be premium coffee. His expression changed immediately. His eyes widened, his eyebrows shot up, and he nearly choked. He set the mug down quickly, staring at it as if it had betrayed him. "What in the name of Neptune is this?" Richardson demanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to having his questions answered immediately. The silence in the room was deafening. Marcus could hear the ship's ventilation system, the distant sound of sailors working on deck, and his own rapid heartbeat. Robert looked like he wanted to disappear into the wall. "Sir," Marcus began, his voice cracking slightly. "I can explain. You can explain why my coffee tastes like—" Richardson paused, taking another small sip to confirm his suspicion. "Like cola? Captain Thompson, did you just serve me a soft drink?" Marcus straightened his shoulders, knowing he had to face this head-on. "Yes, sir, I did. It was supposed to be a prank, but I thought Admiral Hayes was still Captain Hayes, and I thought this was his ship, and I had no idea you were." "Stop." Richardson held up his hand. "Let me understand this. You came aboard my ship, into my private quarters, with the intention of playing a prank involving fake coffee?" "Yes, sir. But not on you, sir. Never on you. I would never presume to." "Captain Thompson." Richardson's voice was dangerously quiet. "In my 35 years of naval service, I have never encountered a situation quite like this." Marcus felt his career flashing before his eyes. He thought about his crew, his family, the years of hard work that had brought him to this point. All of it potentially destroyed by a simple joke that had gone catastrophically wrong. Admiral Richardson stood up slowly, his imposing frame casting a shadow across the desk. He walked around to face Marcus directly. studying him with those penetrating blue eyes. Marcus had never felt so small in his life. "Tell me, Captain, what exactly did you hope to accomplish with this prank?" "Sir, Captain Hayes and I have been friends since the Naval Academy. We've always played harmless jokes on each other. Last month, he replaced my coffee with decaf, and I fell asleep during a briefing. This was supposed to be my payback." "I see. And you thought serving him cola disguised as coffee was appropriate retaliation?" "In hindsight, sir, it seems incredibly juvenile and inappropriate. I deeply regret my actions." Richardson turned to Robert. "Admiral Hayes, how long have you known Captain Thompson?" 17 years, sir. Since our first year at the Academy, I can vouch for his character and his dedication to the Navy. This is completely out of character for him in a professional setting." "Is it?" Richardson raised an eyebrow. "Because it seems to me that Captain Thompson brought materials for pranking onto a naval vessel during official hours, accessed an admiral's private quarters under false pretenses, and attempted to serve a superior officer a beverage that was not what he claimed it to be." Marcus felt sick. When Richardson put it that way, his actions sounded much worse than a simple prank. They sounded like a series of serious violations of military protocol. "Sir, I take full responsibility for my actions. Admiral Hayes had nothing to do with this. He was just as surprised as you were when he realized what I had done." Richardson studied Marcus for a long moment. "Captain, do you know why I reached my current rank? Because of your exceptional service record, sir? Partly. But also because I understand people. I understand what motivates them, what drives them, and what their actions reveal about their character." Richardson walked back to his desk and picked up the mug again, examining its contents. "Tell me, what does this incident reveal about your character?" Marcus thought carefully before answering. This felt like the most important question of his career. "Sir, it reveals that I have poor judgment, that I failed to consider the consequences of my actions, that I let personal relationships interfere with professional responsibilities. What else? That I need to learn to better separate my personal life from my duties as a naval officer." Richardson nodded slowly. "Those are honest answers, but you're missing something important." Marcus racked his brain, trying to think of what else the Admiral might be looking for. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm not sure what you mean." "Captain Thompson, you served me cola, thinking it was a harmless prank. But you know what? In all my years of naval service, no one has ever dared to treat me like a regular person. Everyone is always walking on eggshells around me, afraid to show any personality, any humanity." Marcus blinked in confusion. This wasn't going where he had expected. "Now, don't misunderstand me," Richardson continued. "What you did was inappropriate, unprofessional, and completely against regulations. But it also showed me something interesting about your character. Sir, you're willing to take risks. You think creatively. And when you make a mistake, you own up to it immediately, rather than trying to shift blame." Richardson sat back down and gestured for Marcus and Robert to take seats as well. "These are qualities I value in my officers." Marcus cautiously lowered himself into a chair, still not sure where this conversation was heading. However, Richardson's tone became serious again. "Your judgment clearly needs work. Pranks have no place in a professional military environment, regardless of personal relationships." "Yes, sir. I understand completely." Richardson picked up the mug one more time and took another small sip, making a face. "This is terrible, by the way. What brand of cola is this?" "Store brand, sir. I thought it would look more like coffee than the name brands." "Well, you succeeded in that regard." Richardson set the mug down with finality. "Captain Thompson, I'm going to give you a choice." Marcus's heart raced. "A choice, sir? Option 1. I can write this up as a formal incident, document your unprofessional conduct, and let the review board decide your fate. Your career would likely survive, but there would be a permanent mark on your record." Marcus nodded, dreading to hear option 2. "Option 2. You can accept a special assignment that will test your judgment, creativity, and leadership skills under pressure. It's a difficult mission that requires someone willing to think outside the box and take calculated risks. What kind of assignment, sir? Richardson smiled for the first time since drinking the cola. The kind that would normally go to someone with more experience and better judgment. But I have a feeling that this little incident has taught you more about judgment in 10 minutes than most officers learn in 10 years. Marcus looked at Robert, who seemed as surprised as he was by this turn of events. I would be honored to accept the assignment, sir, whatever it is. Good. But first, Captain Thompson, you're going to march down to my galley and bring me a proper cup of coffee. And it better be the best coffee I've ever tasted. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. As Marcus stood to leave, Richardson called after him. And Captain? Next time you want to prank someone, make sure you know who you're pranking. Understood, sir. Walking toward the galley, Marcus couldn't believe what had just happened. He had expected to face a court-martial, but instead, he was being offered a special assignment. As he made his way through the ship's corridors, he wondered what kind of mission Admiral Richardson had in mind, and whether his brush with disaster had somehow opened a door to an opportunity he never could have imagined. Marcus found the galley and approached the head cook. Chief Petty Officer Williams, a burly man with 20 years of naval service who took pride in keeping the crew well-fed and properly caffeinated. Chief Williams, I need your help, Marcus said, still feeling the weight of what had just happened. I need the best cup of coffee you can possibly make, and I need it now. Williams looked at Marcus with curiosity. Captain, you look like you've seen a ghost. What's this about? Let's just say I need to make a very good impression on Admiral Richardson, and coffee is my only chance at redemption. Williams chuckled. Say no more, sir. I've got some premium beans that I save for special occasions. Colombian single origin. Freshly ground. I'll make it strong enough to wake the dead, but smooth enough to impress an admiral. While Williams worked his magic with the coffee, Marcus reflected on the unexpected turn his morning had taken. He had started the day planning a simple prank between friends, and somehow found himself in line for a special assignment from one of the most powerful men in the Navy. Here you go, Captain, Williams said, handing him a steaming mug. This is my finest work. If this doesn't impress the Admiral, nothing will. Marcus inhaled the rich aroma and smiled. Chief, you might have just saved my career. When Marcus returned to Admiral Richardson's quarters, he found the Admiral and Robert engaged in a serious conversation about fleet readiness. Richardson looked up as Marcus entered. Ah, Captain Thompson returns. Let's see if you can redeem yourself. Marcus carefully placed the mug on the Admiral's desk and stepped back. Richardson picked it up, inhaled the aroma appreciatively, and took a careful sip. His expression changed immediately. This time, for the better. Now that, he said with satisfaction, is proper coffee. Thank you, sir. Chief Williams prepared it specially. Make sure to thank the chief for me. Good coffee is essential for maintaining morale. Richardson leaned back in his chair. Now, about that assignment I mentioned. Marcus waited expectantly while Richardson opened a folder on his desk. Captain Thompson, how familiar are you with unconventional warfare tactics? I've studied them extensively, sir, and I've had some experience with special operations during my deployments. Good. I'm assembling a task force for a unique mission. We've received intelligence about a potential security threat at a civilian maritime event. The annual International Boat Show in San Diego has attracted some unwanted attention from hostile foreign agents. Robert leaned forward with interest. What kind of attention, Admiral? Our intelligence suggests that someone is planning to use the event as cover for espionage activities. They're particularly interested in our new naval technologies that will be on display. The problem is, we don't know who they are, or exactly what they're planning. Richardson turned his attention back to Marcus. This is where you come in, Captain. I need someone who can think creatively, someone who isn't afraid to take risks, and someone who can adapt quickly when plans go wrong. What would be my role in the operation, sir? You would go undercover as a civilian boat enthusiast. Your cover would be that you're a wealthy businessman looking to purchase a yacht for private use. Your real job would be to identify and monitor the hostile agents. Marcus felt a surge of excitement mixed with apprehension. That sounds like a significant responsibility, sir. It is. And here's where your little prank today actually becomes relevant. The agents we're tracking are sophisticated professionals. They'll be suspicious of anyone who seems too perfect, too by the book. Your willingness to take unconventional approaches might actually be an asset. Robert spoke up. Admiral, with respect. Under normal circumstances, yes. But these agents are familiar with our usual intelligence operatives. They've been studying our methods for months. We need someone completely unexpected. Someone they would never suspect of being military. Richardson stood and walked to his window, looking out at the harbor. Captain Thompson, your service record shows that you're creative under pressure and good at building rapport with people. Those skills will be essential for this mission. Sir, I'm honored by your confidence in me. But I have to ask, is this assignment related to my behavior today? Richardson turned back to face him. Partly. Your prank showed poor judgment. But it also showed me that you're not afraid to color outside the lines when you think it's necessary. In intelligence work, that can be a valuable trait. What would be the timeline for this mission? The boat show starts in 3 weeks. You'd need to begin your preparation immediately. You'll work with our intelligence team to develop your cover story, learn about luxury boats, and study the profiles of known hostile agents. Marcus looked at Robert, who nodded encouragingly. Sir, I accept the assignment. Excellent. But let me be clear about something, Captain. This is not a game. These agents are dangerous. And if your cover is blown, you could be in serious trouble. The prank mentality ends here and now. Understood, sir. I won't let you down. Richardson moved back to his desk and pulled out another folder. Your handler for this operation will be Commander Sarah Chen from Naval Intelligence. She's one of our best analysts, and she'll make sure you're properly prepared. When do I start? Tomorrow morning, 0800 hours. You'll report to Building 47 on the base. Tell no one about this assignment except your executive officer, and only what she needs to know to manage your absence. Marcus stood to leave, but Richardson stopped him. Captain Thompson, I want you to understand something. Today could have ended your career, but instead, it's opening a door to a new opportunity. Don't waste it. I won't, sir. Thank you for giving me this chance. As Marcus and Robert left the Admiral's quarters and walked back toward their ships, Robert shook his head in amazement. Marcus, in all the years I've known you, I've never seen anything like that. You served cola to a 4-star admiral and somehow ended up with a special assignment. I still can't believe it myself. When I woke up this morning, the biggest thing on my mind was getting you back for that decaf incident. Well, consider us even. I'd say you've learned your lesson about pranks in professional settings. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. You know, Robert, I think this whole experience taught me something important. Sometimes our biggest mistakes can lead to our greatest opportunities, but only if we're willing to own up to them and learn from them. That's very philosophical of you. But remember, this assignment sounds serious. These aren't your usual training exercises. I know, and I'm grateful for the chance to prove myself. Admiral Richardson could have ended my career today, but instead he's trusting me with something important. As they reached Marcus's ship, his crew members noticed the change in their captain's demeanor. Lieutenant Martinez approached him as he came aboard. Captain, how did your meeting go? Marcus smiled, but it was a more serious smile than his crew was used to seeing. Let's just say it was educational, Martinez. Very educational. That evening, Marcus sat in his quarters thinking about the day's events. He opened his notebook, where he kept his prank ideas, and looked at all the elaborate schemes he had planned over the months. Without hesitation, he tore out the pages and threw them away. His phone rang, and he saw Robert's name on the caller ID. Marcus, I've been thinking about what happened today. So have I. It's been quite a day. I want you to know that I'm proud of how you handled yourself in there. When Richardson confronted you, you could have made excuses or tried to shift blame. But you took full responsibility. It was the right thing to do. Besides, trying to lie to a 4-star admiral would have been career suicide. True, but not everyone would have had the courage to be honest in that situation. I think that's why Richardson offered you this assignment. Marcus looked out his window at the other ships in the harbor, thinking about the mission that lay ahead. Robert, do you think I'm ready for something like this? I think today proved that you can handle unexpected situations and learn from your mistakes. That's exactly what you'll need for an undercover operation. After hanging up, Marcus began preparing for the next phase of his career. He researched luxury boats, studied civilian fashion, and practiced adopting a non-military bearing. The prank that had started as a simple joke between friends had somehow transformed into the opportunity of a lifetime. 3 weeks later, as he walked through the San Diego boat show wearing expensive civilian clothes and carrying himself like a wealthy businessman, Marcus reflected on the strange path that had brought him here. His fake coffee prank had taught him more about judgment, responsibility, and opportunity than any formal training ever could. The mission was successful. Marcus identified the hostile agents, helped naval intelligence gather crucial information about their operations, and prevented a significant security breach. His unconventional background and natural ability to think outside the box proved invaluable in the operation. When Admiral Richardson debriefed him after the mission, he had one final observation. Captain Thompson, you've learned that actions have consequences, but also that sometimes those consequences can lead to unexpected opportunities. That's a lesson many officers never learn. Marcus never played another prank in a professional setting, but he never forgot the lesson that his worst mistake had taught him. Sometimes the path to growth and opportunity comes through the most unexpected and uncomfortable experiences. Years later, as Admiral Thompson looked back on his distinguished career, he would often tell young officers about the day he served cola to a 4-star admiral and how it changed his life forever. The story became legendary in naval circles, not as an example of what not to do, but as proof that owning up to your mistakes with integrity can sometimes open doors you never imagined possible.